Hello, everybody, and welcome to Pixels and Ink, the official podcast of CGMagazine, where we take a critical eye to gaming, comics, tech, and media. I am your host today, Chris DeHoog, and I'm joined by our editor-in-chief, Brendan Fry.
Hello there, Chris.
Dana Eileen.
Howdy.
And Jordan Biordi.
Hello.
How's everybody doing?
I'm
Good.
Sheltered from the
Still
storm? Is it snowing like
better.
crazy in your neck of the woods, too?
No. We got like snow drifts are apparently coming, but that's it.
We had like a snow squall watch thing. I was like, I don't believe you. And then it came out of nowhere.
There you go.
So that means it's coming for us,
Yeah.
right?
I got
Karma
a
slapped me
32-degree
today.
night.
It's fine.
Yeah,
So-
you're having a great time. Well, we're going to New York next week, and it's going to be like 11 degrees while we're there.
Weird.
Yeah, I'm
Nice.
pretty pumped about it, actually.
That's a bit better.
I'm pretty thrilled. So
Yeah,
I'll take
can
it.
My mom-
do with it minus 11.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? My mom called me the other on last Friday, and she was showing me like all the snow they were getting, and I like genuinely missed it.
Oh,
And she's
you're
like,
broken.
how do you miss this? I'm like, Mom, it's 34 degrees here every day. Like,
I was actually
you
that
get
myself.
tired of it.
Like I've apparently taught my kids wrong, and my son hates the cold too. It's like I like playing in the snow, but like I hate that it's cold. I'm like, yeah,
So much
I
work.
love the cold.
maths, sciences. But I was explaining, I'm like, yeah, but if you lived somewhere where it was warm all the time, it would be the same all the time.
Yep.
Like, be thankful you're somewhere where it changes. I mean, I wish it would change like to less of this,
Mhm.
but the last few days have been really freaking cold here.
It has been really chilly.
I've been
It's
like visibly angry every time I go outside,
like
just yelling like, bah!
I mean, that's a normal thing to do.
It's totally reasonable, totally fine.
minus 15 is a step too far.
Yeah, no bueno. I mean, and I can remember that it used to get like so much colder.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it did.
whatever. I'm just a
Did it though?
Beard freezingly cold.
Yeah, that's always a fun afternoon. But where it's not that cold as LA, where E3 will be held for the first time in 4
Ooh,
years
that's
this
like
summer.
smooth.
Yeah.
Will it
nailed
though?
Well, it will. It will.
In
It's
name
happening.
only.
But E3 this year we learned, or this week we learned, we'll go down without the big three, as apparently Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony will not be on the show floor.
So
I
they
thought
threw
that
a
was
party and nobody decided to come.
I mean, other developers will be there.
Am I crazy? Like I thought that was the case at the last few.
No.
That's what you said. Are you a
Like
big liar?
Nintendo has largely been staying away from E3 in favor of doing their own like directs, but for the most part, Microsoft and
Mhm.
Sony have had like,
No, I mean,
and I think even Nintendo too just like had like stuff on the show
yeah,
floor.
they had a booth on the show floor. Microsoft hasn't
Mhm.
because they have the Microsoft Theater that is right next door to the convention center. There's really no reason to have both, and they control that theater, so why not? But yeah, Sony had a presence, and the press conference was off-site, but they had something on the show floor, and Nintendo's had something on show floor for a while. It's just more of just a weird, magical Nintendo place where there's like one game on the entire show floor, but they've had something.
Mhm.
Yeah, I have feelings about E3 in general,
Mhm.
but I feel like what's going to happen is they're just going to have like it's been online for the last couple years since I've been here. It's been like, well, today's this showcase and tomorrow's
Right.
this showcase, and it's going to be a disaster. That like E3 paired with Summer Game Fest with 3 days in between the two. So anybody that is traveling out to LA for it, it's going to be a nightmare. And then they're going to have to fit in 47 more showcases on top of that.
Right.
Whether they're
Yeah,
in person or not is a whole different story.
Summer Games Fest 2 is right after that.
No, Summer Game Fest is the actual like live thing is on the 8th.
Mhm.
And
Oh,
then
is it? Okay, so it's right before.
E3 is the
Right.
13th. Yeah, so it's gonna be a time.
I mean, Xbox will be there. They tweeted already earlier this year that they were going to be at Summer Game Fest, but
That's
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
yeah, on the 25th, they said Xbox will return to Los Angeles this summer as well. Actually, returning to Los Angeles this summer. I assume that's for Summer Games
No, no,
They
Fest.
weren't at Summer
they
Game
do,
Fest.
they do their own thing. They have a showcase, and they've already confirmed that they will be having the showcase again, which is just as I said, the Microsoft Theater, where they'll have like weird photo ops and things like that. But
Yeah, we went to it this past year.
So they're just building their own sandcastle, and
yeah, basically, and yeah,
I feel like we're
Mhm.
choosing between our divorced parents. No, too dark.
no,
Okay. You guys kind of got to choose who I love the most, and like, hey, I'm a divorced parent, man. Like, I can say that, right? But like,
if you're a smart kid, you don't choose either, and you get 2 Christmases.
there you go. There you
play
go.
play the system.
I don't have time for that many showcases though. I don't have the time.
So we
Oh
need
my.
we need to parent trap the industry, is what you're saying.
Yes,
Clearly
this
that's
is what I'm
what
understanding.
It feels like a little bit like we definitely have a different perspective on it because we cover it as like journalists. So like it's every time E3 comes around, it's like less exciting than it is deflating because like Dana said, it's just like, oh my god, I have to cover all this shit now. Whereas like
I'm jaded already. Jesus.
even before, it was kind of like, you know, when I was a bit younger, you didn't really care so much about like which day was whose. Like you didn't really pay attention to that. It was more like what games got announced today, or like it was just like this like week-long announcements of games. So like as long as Nintendo, Sony, or Microsoft are all still going to have some kind of like announcement showcase, then it'll function more or less the same. But you guys know I've long been on the record of saying now that like E3 should just end because clearly nobody's interested in anymore.
It seems like it's getting like, you know, take Niagara Falls Comic Con, for instance. When it started, it was this like little, it's our local Comic Con, and there was like 6 booths, and it was awkward. And every year it's gotten bigger and bigger. I feel like E3 is doing that in reverse. Like, it was this big, massive thing, and people are just like,
And now it's slowly like people don't care
it's
anymore.
not run by people as big anymore. Like it's just a whole thing. I don't know.
Well, like even CES, when you guys were at CES recently, like that used to be a big thing for gaming specifically. Like in the 90s, that was like where half the game news came from. Exactly, yeah. Like
E3 started as a part of CES, and it kind of became its own thing.
Yeah.
So like you see how that's changed over time. Like it started as like a tech thing, the games invaded, and they split off into their own thing, and now it's more back about tech.
See, more divorced parents. We're just like this weird poly world, and everybody's divorced. Why can't we all just get along? Sorry, I made that weird.
Poly industry. Interesting.
Hey man, you gotta do what you gotta do.
But yeah, no, I think I don't really know what E3 is going to be this year. I think Summer Games Fest really kind of has taken E3's thunder because that year it was kind of, well, like the few years has been canceled, and Summer Games Fest kind of just swooped in there and tried to take over what it once had. And now I think ReedPop is known for like the PAX conventions and such, so they know how to run a convention, but it's not the same thing as what E3 was. So I'm not really sure if it can recapture that magic that people kind of once knew as E3. To be fair, E3 has always been a weird consumerist thing, and that's fine. But I feel people had a view of what it is, and that thing that they viewed it as really never existed. Like I don't think it ever was a magical place where games were just all over the place. I think we're looking back on those.
Is that just because you're cranky though?
No, I think I think E3 is interesting. It is a giant convention of just all that's coming in gaming. I just think as more things moved online, it's less needed. Like you don't need to have these in-person showcases. You can have them pre-recorded.
But settle down with that because that's our entire job.
Yeah.
So don't tell anybody. Like that's the problem. A lot of this isn't necessary. Do I need to fly out to XYZ to look at a product? No, probably not. Do I need to fly out to XYZ to watch a screening of a launch of a product? Also, probably not. But I'm doing it. So,
yeah.
Agreed.
It is a little bit like, kind of like you're saying, like it is a little bit like behind the scenes journo stuff, but like to Brendan's point, which I do agree with, like, you know, the way that sort of like the internet functions and the way that like online media functions, it really doesn't matter if you're there in person or you're not.
I
Like
disagree with that. I disagree with part of that. I think the showcases don't matter. I don't think you standing there near
Watching trailers.
no, that's what I mean.
Yeah, but I do
That's
think
exactly
the
what
show
I mean.
floor
Like,
matters. I
yes,
think the show
exactly.
floor does
Like
matter.
Hands on with
but
the
like
games, meeting the people, that kind
yeah,
of stuff.
exactly. Like the in that sort of sense, like what I was trying to say was like coverage is coverage, right? So it's like
Yeah.
if you get, you know, if Nintendo, you know, does a direct on what like ostensibly would have been the E3 date and then puts out like some game demos the same day, which they usually do, like you can
Right.
have your reveal coverage, you can have your demo coverage, and it still functions the same, but
Yeah,
like you don't
like
necessarily need the event
okay, we'll
per
put it this
se.
way. Chris, maybe not you as much as me, but I started doing this like in the thick of the pandemic. Like how Brendan and I became friends, I'm not sure because we never should have met each other in person, but we did. And I started here, and none of this was how anything happened when I started. We didn't
No.
play games in person. There was Parsec, there was Discord, there was these things aren't necessary. They're necessary for us to make connections. They're necessary for us to sit and play the game and have a conversation with somebody. I know when I played Guardians of the Galaxy on Parsec, while there were two people dead silent in a chat with me while I just like walked around, and I'm like a looter. That's just who I am as a person. Even when I'm doing it like a demo and I need to finish it quickly, I'm like, what's in this drawer? And they're like, hey, do you need help? Because you could just, I'm like, let me look in the drawer.
You see what's there.
What's in here? What are you
I'm
hiding? So like that was giving me like awkward anxiety. Whereas when I did Summer Game Fest, I sat down, I think I've said this before, with I think one of the lead writers on one of the new Star Trek games that was coming. And it wasn't an interview, like it probably should have been. That's my bad. But we just kind of talked, and he and I had like a really good conversation about like family and how this game was like a tribute to his father, and it was really really nice. It was a nice conversation. It gave me a little bit more insight to the game, and it gave a little bit of like heart to it rather than me having weird anxiety and people watching me. So I mean, for us as journalists, yeah, it is. It is. And like there's events that we go to that
I remember it
I'm
was
like, this is completely unnecessary, but I'm gonna go because I don't want to be the one that's not there meeting these people, having these conversations, going to these parties, because that's how people remember you.
That's very much the truth. That is very accurate, and I think the fact of like how the industry has kind of changed due to the pandemic has changed the necessariness of E3. But that being said, they still having that hands-on time, having that time to meet people is so vital to this industry. Because if everyone just worked by email, a lot would get lost.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Like how many times have we met people and they've been like, "Oh, I talk to you all the time." I'm like, we just found out. Oh, I can't remember who it was. I'm not going to say the name. We just found out somebody who we very much thought was a woman is a man. We're like, oh, email's cool. Like, no idea.
But even more,
Good to
even more
know.
than that,
Yeah.
like when you're looking at game coverage, it's hard to parse through all your emails. But when you're on the show floor, you might like see a booth for a small indie title, and you say, "That's amazing. I want to try that." Via email, it might slip under the radar. You might never see it. So that hands-on time of actually being in a place where you get time with small indie titles, or you get time with talking to a developer, gives you a different insight to these games that, as much as a press release is great for giving the basic word out there, it does miss.
Gives it heart, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Gives it heart. Like I said, do you think I cared about that Star Trek game? Not so much.
Well, and I think there is a certain degree, like there's a shift in perception too, because like kind of like what was Dana was saying. I had to look up the name because I forgot, but I remember when you and I, Brendan, went to Migs, and we had a chance to talk to Ian Livingstone. And like you were busy, so you told me like go do an interview with him. And I was still like fairly new. I was so like nervous and awkward that I didn't like ask him a single question. Because I was like, this is like the former CEO of Eidos, and like I don't know what to say to this guy.
Yeah.
And there was a bunch of people around, and I was just like,
That's the thing with me too. Brendan will attest to this because it's probably the thing that he hates the most about me as an employee is interviews terrify me.
Mhm.
I can write up
Mhm.
great questions. I don't want to talk to anybody. Brendan has done a few interviews for me that I have set up. I have written all the questions and I have run away.
Yeah.
It's not my forte. It makes me nervous. I have this tendency to act really flighty even when I'm not. And I don't want to do that in front of important people. But even in terms of, again, Summer Game Fest, I sat down and I had to play a game with another journalist and I'd never met before. And we had to play Escape Academy. So we're doing an escape room together. We have to work together. We've never spoken. Again, I'm bubbly and whatever. This guy sits down, just looks angry. I'm like, cool,
Yeah.
this is fine. Ended up really fine, but like I was so anxious having to sit down with somebody that's probably gonna hate my guts, and we have to work together, and this game's gonna suck because he hates me, and like it was a whole thing. Why am I introducing myself to people for this company? It's probably a bad idea. Maybe we should rethink.
Yeah, we don't need to visit our Niagara Falls Comic Con experience from last summer with the
With loud me?
dispatching our extrovert Dana to do things for us.
That is me.
Yeah, no,
Which
it's
is weird because I'm not one. Like I'm so like I don't want to talk to anybody. Everybody get never mind. That's about it. No swearing.
Yeah, it's yeah, I'm like I'm in the same boat too, Dan. Like the things were like that when I got here because it was in the middle of the pandemic, and you know I've had good experience on Parsec where I've played Final Fantasy 14 in a private server pre-launch for the expansion with a bunch of other people who are passionate about the game, and we were coordinating hunts and doing stuff like that, and that was great. I've also played Sonic Colors in the preview where there was such horrible input lag that the person watching me play must have thought I was never touched a game before. Right. Like it's it's those in-person experiences are so important still.
Oh yeah.
Like we've proven we can do without it, but I think you get such a better feel, especially with things like hardware demos and things like that. Like we're not really at that point in the cycle for it, but
like we've done CES when it was remote, and it is a different thing. Watching some guy play with a thing on a screen is very different than trying a thing.
Wow, that was a lot of really technical terms. Play on a screen with a thing is a different thing.
Podcast.
So nobody feels awkward about their presentation back at CES if they hear this. It's being diplomatic. That's we'll call it that.
I mean, like, I feel that. That being said, as I said, wow, lots of said there.
Now I'm giving you a complex.
Yeah. Press conferences, I do think, don't need to be in person. There's zero reason to go there and watch some guy put on trailers, then walk out again and say, "Hey, here's more trailers," and then walk off stage again. Yes, it's kind of neat to be there and seeing when a developer gets on stage and talks, but you're not really interacting with any of that stuff. You're not.
No. Yeah. Is it? I feel like when we did that first E3, like that was the time where I'd like walk away and get a drink. I'm like, you know what I need? Alcohol.
But I don't.
I mean, I didn't drink while I was working. What are you talking about?
But I don't necessarily think that those press conferences add anything by being there. Like I don't. Half those demos, some of them might be live on stage, but a lot of them are pre-recorded because you don't know what's going to go wrong.
Anything that can't go wrong will go wrong.
So
yeah, it's the whole this meeting could have been an email situation, right? Like,
and maybe I'm a little bit more jaded than most, but like I think that there's a certain degree. No, not me. No, not of course. No, you know what? But like when things are done sort of like digitally, I think there's like less. There's less leeway for people to be like dishonest about it, because I just think back to like what was it, like E3 2016 or 17 where Bethesda announced like the DLC that just added the game to Fallout 76, and people applauded it and they were like cheering, like
I mean,
for one reason.
I was
there.
it wasn't like a lot of people applauded. Just the people that were working for Bethesda at the front were like, "Yeah, that's kind of cool, I guess." Yay!
Quinn told me that they were handing out alcohol like crazy, so like it
Oh
seemed
yeah,
like
100%. Like
the audience was a little wasted for it, so maybe that's why they were like,
literally, the audience
yes.
was like, "Yeah." They're also giving out corn dogs and Ferris wheel rides. So there you go.
Hey, we went to a movie where they gave us cheeseburgers. I was pretty good with that.
They did. That was
Yeah.
actually kind of. I
10
didn't
10 out of
enjoy
10
both.
movie.
They were really bad
Cheeseburgers.
They were cold.
They were. There was like we walked out of the premiere and there was food truck handing out burgers. It was kind of cool.
I mean, to be fair, that was the only one that actually did anything for premieres. The rest are just kind of like, "Yep, peace."
And guess what? That's the one we talk about.
And also, it was a good, it was a good movie.
We also stole a whole bunch of like Yeti mugs and iced teas.
Because literally every chair in that theater got a Yeti mug.
But a bunch of people left
and
them.
only like half the theater took some. So I'm like, I guess we're taking Yeti mugs with us.
We did. I did
Just
for them.
scurrying away, arms full. Yeah.
It's like, Mom, I got you a present. You don't need this, but you like free crap.
Mhm.
Which is
That brings
100%
that brings us to a
accurate
good
about my mother.
to like a that brings us to a classic part of E3 that like the loot bags. If
Yeah.
if E3 goes away, what happens to the loot bags?
They'll
Yeah,
have to
Summer
mail it
Game
to
Fest
us.
gave us a loot bag. It had socks in it,
Yeah.
which I mean that made me happy if I'm perfectly honest. And hand
So, like,
sanitizer because that was during the disease times. You
The
know?
worst times. I've been actually like going through a bunch of old game magazines because I found some in like a local retro shop, and it was kind of funny to see all the stuff they talked about, like, or what they emphasized from it, like crazy schedules. Sure, you got loot bags, and then like all the creepy stuff about like booth babes and things like that. That's one
Yeah.
thing we don't need. Glad we did
No.
away with that
Yeah,
part.
I wonder like how recent that was because like I like to think we've been pretty woke as a society for a little while. I thought that only happened at like car stuff, but I guess video games are still like a man industry, right?
Well, that's that's
I can say that. You guys can't say that. Don't say that.
It's-
But
it's
the
something we've
way.
been working on.
Yeah, no, I mean,
To
I'm here.
varying degrees. We're not all
Yeah,
I feel
no,
like the
it-
last
embracing it.
conversation that I heard had about booth babes was like 2017, 2016, like maybe
Yeah. All right.
Or it's like, yeah, I'm sure there's still some.
Oh no, as far back as
Used to that.
2013. Holy shit. Okay, never mind. Yeah,
you
I
have
think we've long moved past that.
Well, I hope so. I
It's
mean,
probably something still to some degree. I'm sure there's some presence of it, but like how we apply it, I think has improved at least. But
Yeah.
um,
But you know,
It-
like I was saying, like I think you know there was a bit of a mystique to like E3. You know, when you were like when I was like an outsider to the whole thing, right? And when it was more designed specifically for journalists, right? Like it was a little bit more self-contained that way.
yeah.
At least I think, and that's what I mean. Like I remember, and it's like you know you didn't necessarily get like you like the experience from E3 like the way you do now. Like you know you'd have a certain handful of the bigger sites. I remember I used to go to game trailers, and like they would have like
Mhm.
someone there like covering it, you know, and releasing all the trailers because that's what they did, right?
I love
You know, and I'll never forget that the 1 year they announced like it like all in one showcase. It was like Metroid, Other M, Donkey Kong Country Returns, Galaxy 2, like another Zelda. I think it was. think that might have been Skyward Sword before that turned out to be garbage. Something else. Like it was just this crazy announcement from Nintendo. Like, and we were just like
Yeah.
sitting there like, holy shit.
like okay, here's my when we're talking about like the trailer shows and things like that. As journalists, and like we're fans too, but as journalists, I don't think those are for us. Those events. Like those are the events that we should be sitting at our computers, at our desks, on our couches, whatever. And that's for us. The events there, like that event is for fans. Like when we were at the Game Awards, watching the crowd react to everything that was happening and even the devs and stuff, but that's a whole different event. Watching them react to everything was awesome. Like I'm not as like widely excited about a huge amount of games, like a huge why can't I speak English today? You know, my tastes aren't as wide as a lot of people, so I wasn't super excited about everything I saw. But to sit in the audience and
Mhm.
like feel, you know, like going to a live sporting event, it was kind of like that. So I
Yeah.
think those events, yeah, okay, do them live, but do them for fans and then we work it. And then the other way around when it comes to something like E3, Summer Game Fest, anywhere we're going to do demos, that's us. Like our job is to tell you whether or not these are worth it. Like that's what we do. So give us the opportunity to do that. And yeah, if you want to have your like fun play days at the end of it with, you know, where people pay way too much money to come and play these games, cool, that's a whole different
Mhm.
conversation. But I think that's more where it lands. But now that we're taking out the big players, I don't know what that means. Does that mean
Yeah.
all Nintendo exclusives aren't going to be there? Or does that mean Nintendo won't have their own booth, but some of their games might have booths? Does that mean there's just nothing to do with it? Does that mean they're going to be down the street? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
We
it's
don't
it's
know.
definitely going
Um.
to be interesting to see what it's like. This
Mhm.
is going to be the chance to set a new precedent for the event going forward, and
Yep.
not having the big three there, that's a weird note to start on. That's for sure.
But
I
like
mean,
I said,
it does. Sorry, Dave. I didn't mean to cut you off
no,
there.
you're good. You're good. Go ahead.
Um. I don't know. Just a quick Google. It's like the way that it's worded is that the big three console manufacturers won't hold press conferences or present on the show floor. So they're just like not. And so even Nintendo, I don't think Nintendo will have a booth there.
Yeah, I don't
But
think so.
that's what I
And I
mean.
don't
Does
know.
that mean like all of Nintendo? Does that mean no Nintendo games? Nothing? Because there's
Anything,
some that like specific games might have a booth, but I don't know what
I
they're
guess
If
gonna do.
anything Nintendo published won't be there.
Okay.
Well,
yeah,
and
if
plus
they're
that's going
not
to be a
like
bit of
if
a weird time frame for them too, right? Because Tears of the Kingdom will be out for like a few weeks at that point. It's not like it's
Mhm.
before
Can
Tears
yeah,
of the
it really?
Kingdom.
Jesus.
We're
but
99 days away as we record this from Tears of the Kingdom.
Weird.
and that's like
Weird.
I think I might have said this before, but I think I've like definitely thought it. Like Nintendo again, like Nintendo has no reason to. Like Nintendo can trade on name alone. All they have to do is
Mhm.
like again, like if these rumors I've been seeing online that they're doing a direct like next week are true, then like again they'll keep the hype machine going. Like all they need to do is
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
drop a direct and everyone's gonna go nuts and like the media will cover it like it's the second coming and like
Yeah,
they're
that's true.
golden. They don't
You
need
mean like
E3. E3
you?
needs them.
And then there's
Mm,
the whole matter
depends
of
on
like
the show.
budget.
Hmm?
There's the whole matter of just budgets. Like, why are we doing this? Why, like, duh.
I mean,
Teeny
companies
tiny
have
little
budget.
booths at some of the events that we've been at are like
Yeah.
20 grand a piece. Never mind friggin' CES. Some of the booths were like a city block. I
Yeah.
Yeah.
imagine that was more than 20 grand. So, like, then it comes to the point
Or
of, okay, do we want to support them, like,
Mhm. And well,
doing
and
that?
I
Like,
mean,
could
I
we,
don't.
like,
I know
solve world hunger instead of you buying this
well,
box for me to stand in?
game studios aren't the ones that should be forking over the money for that. There's other people with the
yeah.
means
I
without
know
paying
I
too
know
much
it's
of
not
attention.
really
You know what you mean?
You
I
got
know
the
it's not
point.
really comparable either, but like Nintendo too, at least in like Toronto, like that we've seen, like they do little like small events where they go to like different like
Yeah.
like
Yep.
the X or they'll go to different places and have demos of stuff that's come out. So it's like if
One
they
hundred percent.
want to have little like smaller like events where they can just kind of keep the hype up. And even at malls too, I've seen it like even like around Christmas time, they'll set up little Nintendo booths in malls. Like there was
Yeah,
one
I do the same thing.
in Oshawa where they'll have like
Mhm.
game demos, they'll have merch, they'll have people getting like excited about buying the new Nintendo
Mhm.
product for Christmas. So like
Right.
I
That's kind of
think
cool.
I feel like
Or
if
Hello
they've worked out a
Kitty.
marketing strategy that they really don't need to be at E3 anymore, then it's like yeah, it's like what's the point?
They know what they're doing.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know. Brendan, I'm curious. Sorry, you disappeared for a minute, but my thought was the like trailer stuff and all that jazz.
Yeah.
Those events are more for fans. And my example was at Game Fest
Yeah.
when, not Game Fest, the Game Awards, when like you saw the crowd going crazy.
Yeah.
Like that's a big exciting thing.
Mhm.
Whereas things like E3 should be more for journalists and people who need to get hands on time with these
I agree.
games to do
I
it.
100% agree with that. I think
Hmm.
what E3's become has kind of been like mystified. Like everyone's like, oh, that's where the only place you can play games. But That's not really true. It's just that's how it's kind of gotten known. So
I've played at least one video game
Mhm.
before.
Or at the very least, it's become like the the event where the big reveals happen. But so many times, so much
yeah,
over the past, these big
Mhm.
reveals that people have, that publishers have felt the need to have not yet manifested games. Like, again, how long ago was Elder Scrolls 6
Yeah.
announced, and we have heard nothing about it? Like,
Ask me how I feel.
I think that was at the press conference with Andrew WK, and they showed a title screen, and they were
yeah,
like, "Yeah, things will happen
because they
eventually."
needed an announcement.
And it's been 47 years.
You know,
Rage.
Here's
I
a cocktail
don't-
napkin with the words Elder Scrolls 6 on it. Get excited.
that's kind of what it was. Like they didn't even have like it wasn't. It was like a rolling hill
Oh,
image.
I'm well
There's-
aware of what it was.
Proof of concept, maybe. Like,
I think they said that.
Hey
that
guys,
they-
we thought about this for like at least a minute. It's cool.
I think they've even said that was like there's nothing built. They're just starting production, so it's basically, yeah, our team has decided. That we're
But you
working
know
on
what?
this.
People get just as excited. We do news stories about like, hey, this company is hiring for this, this, and
Yeah.
this, so it's probably this. I mean, so
Yeah,
we're
we're
just
part of
as
the
bad.
problem.
We hype everybody up. Like shit's happening in 78 years.
I mean,
Let's
we gotta
go.
press this to run.
Let's go.
I think there's legitimacy to like what these companies do, and I think there's legitimacy to these press conferences. I just don't know if there's any advantage for being in person, and I
They're
don't know
fun.
if there's much advantage for
Mhm.
the average person to go to these shows because E3 of past, like you would have a game demo where you get to see this game that no one else has seen for a while or ever. But
Yeah.
it'll be
Except for that one trailer 6 years ago.
yeah, but it'll be a game that's
Yeah.
the dev's like, yeah, if you go to that side, the game just kind of falls apart. So don't do that. But if you have the public there, you can't bring those really early demos because they don't get it. They're like
They're just like,
"It's
this game's
well,
crap.
and-
Well,
and
yeah,
not only
thanks.
do
We
they
haven't
not-
made it yet.
Not only do they not get it, it's that like it's there's so many people that like know, like the people who need to get like time with it don't
Yeah.
end up getting time with it.
Or they get about 12 seconds.
No, there are. I think E3 has in the past. They have had like a demo station that is basically this is the journalist demo station, but the average person that's just there, like when they did that public event, they didn't understand that like why is there a station sitting empty? I should be able to play that. So people would be like fighting over getting onto a station that no one can actually play
People are
on because it wasn't designed for the
Mhm.
average.
I like that we're just sitting here like trash talking regular gamers,
don't-
which
I
are
don't-
literally our audience.
I don't think
You're all stupid. No, I'm
Before I
joking.
started here, I wouldn't have got that the same
Love it.
either. Whoa, what was that?
Sorry, that was
George
performative.
just George just
I was trying to be performative, but then you started talking, and I was like, I don't want to be stupid while Dana's trying to have a
everything
point.
broke. But like when I did the Lost Ark, before that came out, that's an MMO, so usually those are something that you can't do until they're live. But that game hadn't come out yet, so I got to go play it, and they're like, "No, we know about some things." And I turned around, and there was no map beside me. I'm like, "Okay, let's go this way." I go that way, and then there's a bird skeleton. Like there was a skeleton, which made me think like it's not the I'm seeing its insides, and when they animate it, I feel they don't animate its insides.
they do animate. They do have animation skeletons.
Well, there you go. I ran into a skeleton, and I was like, that also seems like a placeholder, maybe.
Maybe.
But a regular person like me 3 years ago, I would have been like, you guys need some help.
Yeah.
This isn't working. Yeah.
But a lot of people don't like the concept of a beta. Like when you see a beta
Mm-hmm.
in like Call of Duty's online beta, that's not really a beta.
No, it's a
a
super
game-
finished game.
it's a finished game that they're saying it's a beta just because they might have to tweak the online a bit. That's about it.
Yeah, just in case they change something so nobody can get pissed off.
But like an actual beta is rough. Like it's sometimes they
Or
barely.
how about an
function.
alpha?
Yeah, so, I mean,
Yeah.
these are games that are not really meant for public consumption. They're meant for like, hey, we know games take work to make. This is a thing so you can tell your audience if you like it or not.
But we've even been in situations where companies have reached out and been like, hey, do you guys want to come look at this game for us and tell us what we need to fix? Like,
Yeah.
don't review it. Don't tell anybody else. But like, can you just come
Yeah.
check it out for us.
I
And
mean,
I mean, they should hire people for that.
They
But
should, yes.
I mean, that's a thing that happens. You can't do
Perhaps-
that with just like Frank.
perhaps hire some testers for their betas. You can call them
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
Gamma testers.
What?
mm,
That's crazy. That's
Critical
crazy.
consultants.
mm. But I'm of two minds. I think there's a time and place for a con that is designed to show off early games. I think that's why PAX exists. That's these cons exist. That makes
Mhm.
sense. I also think there's a time and place for a show that is designed for journalists. They don't need to be the same thing.
I agree.
That's not
Probably
entitled at all.
yeah.
It's
But
just
that goes back to like yeah, because you want to be showy for the buyers,
yeah.
but you want to be maybe professional for the journalists, which isn't necessarily true. We get spoiled
Yeah.
for no reason.
But there's also like,
But
the average person's not going to get to talk. Like if you have an interview thing and like this room is for Hideo Kojima, you're not going to be like, yeah, he's just going to be signing autographs for 3 days. He's going to be there for like 4 hours, and you can kind of, if you're a journalist, you get in there, get 5 minutes with him, and leave.
Yeah.
And that's how it has to be. Like I've been at an E3.
I think Chris would cry.
Yes. It was it was the one that was first year. It was public,
Sounds
and
terrible.
they were doing a Cyberpunk demo, and I was in the session where Hideo Kojima got snuck in to see this Cyberpunk demo. So everyone's like, "What?" It's like a 10-minute or 30-minute whatever showcase showing off the game in its peak performance because it very rarely ever looked that good. But because Hideo
Even
Kojima
after it came out.
because Hideo Kojima is such a celebrity, you had all these public people just kind of crowded around hearing he might be coming out of this demo session.
Mhm.
And he's just like, I just want to leave and do my job. Like he had other meetings scheduled,
Kindly
but the public
fuck off.
wouldn't move.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at TIFF.
Yeah.
TIFF is open to the public, and like the streets were just swarmed with people.
Yeah.
I got warned that I was probably going to get hurt if I gave someone my Taylor Swift ticket.
Yeah.
So, like, sometimes the public's not great.
But that being said, I
Yeah.
think there's a time and place for that sort of like PAX exists, and that makes sense. I think the fact that
That makes
E3 is going to be a public event, I think that means it's not going to be what we expect from a journalist type con. It's going to be a con designed to show off the game that's going to be coming out 3 weeks from now. It's going to be the game that's almost finished, and they just want to have the public
It's
see a
just going to
new
give them
trailer.
bragging rights.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just that being
Mhm.
said, I'd still like to go to E3. So,
Yeah.
like, E3, please don't cancel my accreditation.
well,
Don't
the
hate.
the sense I'm kind of like getting from this conversation is that like I don't think we need to keep shoving a public aspect onto E3 anymore. Like you
Or
said,
just-
PAX
I-
exists, and like
I think
If
if they
for-
want to make E3 that's fine, but Summer Games Fest will kind of take over that role.
Well, and especially if they're taking
Mhm.
like the major people out of E3, now it is just a PAX. It might be a larger PAX with
Yeah.
brighter lights. I don't know, but you're not like, if I'm not mistaken, Brendan, when you were at PAX, it was a lot of like indie games or
Yeah.
smaller studios and things like that.
But
So
even then,
yeah, now
Sony's
they're all
been
the
at
same.
PAX. Sony has brought a big presence to PAX.
Oh, okay, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Microsoft summits of PAX, Intel, like there's big brands at PAX. It's
Oh, I
just
didn't know that.
it
Take it
usually
back.
be more finished games. So it won't be games that are just like this game's 4 years out and here's a thing that kind of works. It's more of
I want that.
these games. This is a game that's basically finished. It's going to be coming out in the next year or so. Have a look and be excited. It's a different kind of experience. And E3 was often, hey, this game might look this good when done. We don't know.
Completely different
yeah.
game when it releases.
Yeah.
We changed the name
Well,
too,
I mean,
guys.
like,
It's fine.
the first E3 I went to was the Aliens Colonial Marines, like infamous demo where Randy Pitcher's like,
Oof.
this is all going to be in the
Tell
game.
me that was in 1984 and he's 100.
And you said the Wii U version was going to be the best version too.
Yeah, yeah.
oh boy.
he showed a Wii U with like the little like thing on it. I'm like, that sounds like a thing.
That's not real. That's not real, Randy.
But that is kind of what E3 was. A lot of boasting, a lot of things. Like this is a thing that might exist one day. Cool. Very similar to CES, with a lot of this is aspirationally what we want it to be.
Mhm.
And I think if it's going to be just a pure public event with some media showcases,
I still
it's going to be
have
much
privilege.
more a PAX on a bigger scale. Maybe you have a few bigger presenters there, but it from this latest report
Yeah.
doesn't seem that way.
Raul Coley could be there for no reason.
That or
I mean,
they
that's cool.
E3 like structurally needs to rethink what it is, and like
I mean, Repop's not
or
running it, so who knows?
yeah, like it needs to do some serious restructuring, because it seems like if the case is that like all the big three don't care about going anymore,
I just want you
then
guys to know that I watched This Is Us, and the triplets on that. Well,
Oh,
not
God.
triplets, but kind of. They're also called the Big Three. So every time you guys say that, I think of like a really sad, like orphaned family.
crockpot
I mean,
death.
yeah,
It's so sad. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
I'm
like
fine.
that's what I mean. Like they because you know what I mean. At this point, it's like the publishers aren't the problem right now. It's E3 is the problem. E3 has an image problem, and they need to fix what and figure out what they are to like reattract.
Yeah.
Now,
that kind
that
of
being
business.
said, we're sitting here saying all the things that they need to do, but we have no idea. No, I'm dying. Okay, we have no idea what they have or have not done.
Yeah.
We've been keeping an eye. Like E3's website is just like it's happening. Like there's not even like a
Yeah.
second page to go to right now. It's sign up, yay!
Mhm.
We'll tell
Well,
you
and
stuff
it's-
later. So like it's pretty tight-lipped about what's going on, and same with Summer Game Fest. Like we don't know who's doing what there.
Mhm.
Usually we'd hear like this company might be there, or like
I
maybe you'll hear about this, and that's not the case right now. So who knows? Maybe E3 is like a whole different world, and we're just jackasses, and we'll eat these words later. I doubt it, but still.
Yeah,
We'll
also
see.
think-
I was
don't
about to
think anyone
say.
actually knows right now. I think there is a lot of people are still booking those booths. People are still sorting out what event they're going to be at, and
Myself
we might not
included.
know what E3 is until like
hmm
mid-April. Then everyone's like, "Yeah, I'll be at E3," and like, okay, now we know what's going to
And
happen.
that's going to be a nightmare for journalists.
Yes.
Yeah,
Even
well.
like I
Hooray.
won't name names, but like a major PR company was like, "Hey guys, you're all screwed with how E3 and Summer Game Fest is spread out."
Yeah.
Yep, and like Summer Game Fest, the like big stream thing or theater thing, whatever, is in Hollywood. Whereas, yeah, no, it's not gonna be a good time. Not gonna be a good time for anybody. It's fine.
Well, E3 is in the hands of Reed Pop for the first time, also, and
Yeah.
they claim they've been listening to feedback and whatnot. So
I mean, sure. why
yeah,
not?
could
Feedback
very well
of
be
who,
a
though?
different thing.
That's the problem.
Well,
Depends on who
from
they're listening to. Are they listening to like the people in the industry that are making the games? Are they listening to the people in the industry that are testing the games, or the people that are
We're
playing the
reading
games?
Reset Era and just kind of saying, what are people saying now? Okay, we're gonna do
They're
They
going
took
on to
everything
Twitter.
from Reddit.
better Reset Era than 4chan or
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah.
My goodness.
all
No,
weird
they-
VTubers over everything. It's gonna be very weird.
the Repop's Global VP of Gaming. That's the title, apparently. Kyle Marston Kish,
why not?
Repop Global VP of Gaming. That said that they've been studying the global gaming community's feedback. So not sure exactly who they've been listening to, but E3 2023 will be recognizably epic. A return to form that
I
honors
mean,
what's
sure.
always worked while reshaping what didn't and setting a new benchmark.
Chris,
So
I'm
we'll
gonna
see.
need you to only read things like that from now on.
Epic.
E3 will be recognizably epic.
Epic,
Yeah.
epic, epic.
I mean, that's-
Sunday,
that's-
Sunday. Okay, what? I'm fine.
Honest Trailer's voice. Big.
basically.
Anyways.
Good talk, guys. We're all
As
dying.
as I killed myself doing that voice today.
Ah,
But that's my voice isn't the only thing going offline. Boom.
good segue.
Good segue.
So, and actually, even
Not
since
yet,
we
I've
sat
got it.
down and started planning our podcast tonight, there's been another game announced that's
Oh, really?
going to be ending service. Knockout City will be terminating
Oh,
in
that game.
June. Yeah.
That game exists.
Shit.
Wait, isn't that like
Um,
a pretty new game?
Yeah, like 6 months ago.
9 months it'll be.
Yeah.
It's like not even a full term baby yet.
Ew.
And never mind. Whoa, that was
And
not
it's
an
the
online
Ninja
joke.
Turtles in it. Or
Oh wait,
something.
2 years? Yeah, no, it'll be 2 years for them actually when they shut down.
Okay.
On the morning of June 6, 2023, over 2 years after our initial launch, our servers around the world will be shut down, said Velen Studios. But originally, we were meant to be talking about how EA shut down some projects that weren't even formally announced. According to a report from Bloomberg, there was a title under the working sort of nickname Titanfall Legends that was
Mhm.
terminated before it was even officially announced, and 50 employees shuffled around.
I mean, okay.
Um,
I mean, okay. Thanks, Brendan. Thanks,
I
Vincent.
mean, like at EA, 50 employees is not a huge team. Like EA's team.
No, it's a very
is in the
small, yeah.
hundreds. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean
we'll
that's
we'll pass the days of
arguably
50
bigger.
50-person development teams.
Yeah. I mean, some studios still are that, but at EA, usually it's like, in this warehouse full of people is this one game.
There you go.
But it's not the only casualty at EA or Respawn Entertainment, as Respawn is also shutting down Apex Legends Mobile. They've already turned off the in-game transactions, so they've already started playing closing time and
I think they also
preparing
can't download
players
the
for
game
that.
anymore. Is that right?
They're turning the lights on at 2
You don't have
a.m.
to go home, but you can't play here.
Yeah.
We saw this happen recently too
Everybody's
with
makeup's
Final
running.
7 Battle Royale and
Oh yeah.
Knockout City as well. Now they'll be shutting down. Yeah,
That's a
it's
shame too, because Knockout City was actually a really good game.
That's
they
what I
also-
mean. Like I thought that game was doing okay. I guess just nobody gave a shit.
And I think they
It's
also
a-
canceled the
Well-
Battlefield mobile as well.
yes, yeah.
You know,
So that was also not released.
Awkward.
I think the problem with Knockout City too was that it was like borderline deceptive because they like initially released it as like free to play, and then they like for like a couple weeks or something, then they like made it cost money.
Oh. That's
So like it was
Not a
I think
good
I think the plan from the beginning was that it was going to be like a full priced game, or not a full price game, but
Right.
like a like a $30 game, and or like a $20 or whatever. But like
Some
but it had like a limited time where you could play, and it was like playing for free. And the game that it is too, like it's not a play. It's not a. I don't know. I don't know if I would justify paying money for this. It because it's very much designed to be like a Fortnite.
Okay.
It has the exact same kind of monetization systems. I think that was probably too maybe what put people off of it. Like it has
my
battle
question.
passes. It has the exact same monetization system, but it also is a game you have to purchase with money.
Hmm.
That was my question about the Apex Legends mobile. I know Fortnite you can play on anything, but it's the same game. It's not
I
different.
think it was
Is Apex
slightly
different? Like is it your same character that you play elsewhere? I don't.
I
have
think it's slightly
questions.
different. I don't remember
Yeah,
what
'cause-
is different about it, but it is a slightly different version of the game.
Lame.
Because because
So bad.
I could have swore, and maybe I'm wrong here, but isn't like Fortnite, isn't there a version just like of Apex, like plain Apex Legends that like is for mobile?
I think that's the mobile one that you.
That's the one
I
that's
didn't know it was
yeah.
for mobile.
Okay, that's not like because I thought
It
okay,
did segregate the audiences, from what I understand. Like there was a
Mhm.
mobile audience and the
Okay.
console and PC audience. So it wasn't like I
Yeah.
don't believe it was crossplay between the two platforms, but I don't remember.
Okay, yeah, no, I was under the impression that it functioned kind of like Fortnite, that there was like the mobile version, which was kind of like that whole like Call of Duty mobile game, which was like a functional for
Right.
FPS like multiplayer experience designed for a mobile thing, and there was
Right.
like the actual like Apex Legends you just play on a mobile device like Fortnite.
Mhm.
I was wrong though.
Yeah, and
Boo.
I don't know what the exact differences were, but
Ooh.
I think there's more monetization in the mobile one, from what I'm understanding.
Get out. A mobile game?
Tracks.
No.
But I don't know how like the gameplay varied between the two. I never was a big
Yeah.
Apex person. I think the PC one is fun, but I
Mm-hmm.
never got into any of the other platforms.
I heard it's good on. I know a lot of people who play it on console, and they all really enjoy it. So I mean, except for the
our
Switch
reviewer liked
version.
it,
The
so-
Switch version.
so,
Yikes.
I mean, our reviewer liked it, so there you go.
Yeah.
You were liked it.
Yeah, no,
I
it's
still
Did
playing
did
the
Alex
game,
review all of them, or?
I believe he did, yeah.
I don't know.
I think
where
so,
we're
yeah.
at.
That's
Apex
Legends.
again? Yeah, that was not I.
Yeah.
I think I want to play Overwatch. Side story. I need a game.
I was just actually thinking about Overwatch and how they would like what's going to be next for them, because if these things are being rattled, Overwatch 2 hasn't exactly been out to a great start.
I mean, I think Blizzard needs something, and right now they don't really have much that is doing.
I think they're
amazing.
maybe
I mean,
banking
Diablo-
on. Yeah, I was just about to say Diablo.
Mhm.
Diablo
Yeah.
Immortal. How long till Diablo Immortal goes down to?
I mean, I think it's still making money. I just think there was a steep drop off after the game launched.
That's
Yeah,
the
for
case with
no
anything,
reason.
though.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was people got into it, then they got hit by the microtransactions that were kind of egregious, and then they're like, "What if I just stopped playing this game?" And then they did.
What
And
if
then they
not?
did. Science.
Wait a minute.
I
Actually, fuck this.
I
Yeah.
think Overwatch is doing okay. It just definitely is not doing what Overwatch when it first launched did. That game really
Mhm.
did kind of take off and set up the hero genre, or kind of recapture the hero genre. And I don't think this Overwatch 2 has lit that same fire.
Well, because it
Fair.
didn't release with half the stuff it was supposed to, right? Like it didn't have as many
Chris, you
modes
played
for
Overwatch,
gameplay.
right?
Like it
It was
didn't have the
much more
story mode.
limited.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
Yeah.
What they initially said when they were like, we're gonna do a sequel, and then what they actually came up with when it was time to talk about it were very
I
different
thought there was a
things.
story mode coming, or did it not come?
It hasn't
not
arrived
come
yet.
Mhm.
I'm not sure when the new plan is for it, because and even if we did know the plan, I imagine it might still change.
Right.
But yeah, like they initially had a lot of big plans and a lot of big talk, and then when the time came, it was a much more subdued, season-based, incremental thing. So
I mean, it's what I kind of. It really feels like they just slightly updated the core of Overwatch and said it's slightly different now. Cool.
that was exactly what
I-
it felt.
Marginally
I feel-
different.
I feel we are long away from the point when Overwatch League was the biggest thing ever, and it was showing what could be done with esports. I don't think Overwatch 2 is doing that same stuff, and I really don't think people are quitting their jobs and being Overwatch players full time like they did when that thing.
Oh, I was gonna tell you later, but
Yeah.
Oh,
Hate to break it to you. We're
Yeah,
all becoming Overwatch.
and we're gonna do it at E3. What?
It was our big debut.
I am kind of this news from EA also comes when they delayed the new Star Wars game, and they've bought back shares. I don't know what that matters, but they definitely did that too.
Mhm.
So it seems like EA is in a kind of a transitional period, and they're trying to like consolidate stuff and make sure what they do is profitable. But it also makes sense because it is their quarter end, so they want to make it
Well,
something like look at all the stuff that wasn't making money. We got rid of it. It's great now.
it's a good time too, because like for the long time they were the kind of not boogeyman, but the kind of the scapegoat for the industry. Like, everything that was going wrong was kind of in that corner, and now Activision Blizzard have kind of
Rightly
taken
so,
over
I would
that,
say.
and- oh no, they have their time. They earned some shade, and now they've kind of had the tension taken off them for that. So now's a good time to kind of quietly like set the table again and
Yeah, like let's just fix things up. Let's make it work. But I do
fix house.
I do question what they have planned for this year because I don't really know much of what EA is releasing this year, like really
The
major,
Sims?
other than Star Wars and
New Sims
They
expansion.
also do The Sims. Am I making that up?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm making that up, or yeah, they did.
No, they
Yeah,
are doing
so
another.
they're
Sims
actually
expansion.
doing they're actually putting a I don't know how much work it is. I'm sure it's lots of work but they're doing a lot of stuff with The Sims right now
Yeah.
to make it more inclusive,
That's good.
more diverse. I don't have the full story because I was not prepared for this. Clearly, there's like a whole area that you're going to be able to go to and like explore different kinds of families and
kinda cool.
like they're doing stuff, but like I can't. Like, when did The Sims come out? How are we still there?
I
Oh,
mean,
Like, why is that still
when-
the thing? We're like, it's fine.
When it first came out, or
Oh God, yeah.
oh, it's been like
Sims 4 was
late-
2014, and then I
And
think
that's
they
Sims 4.
re-released it.
Yeah.
on consoles and things like that as well.
Yeah,
because the
it's,
original was like 2000. I remember that stuff.
well, we talked about this a little bit last week, but I've been playing The Sims for as long as I can remember. Like when I had a really awful computer in my bedroom at home in like high
Right.
school. So I've been playing it as long, well, maybe not high school, as long as I could. And now my 11-year-old niece has taken over my account and is equally sassy about it. So like it's cool. We're passing it down. It's that game won't die. And I mean, good on them. But yeah, that's where they're putting effort right now.
Yeah,
And
I also don't. Respawn was doing a lot of stuff in the Titanfall universe, and I'm wondering if these moves are EA basically saying, we're moving away from that universe a little bit.
Mhm.
We're not going to be really fully embracing the Titanfallness that we once were.
The Titanfallness.
Well, I was today years old when I realized that the two games were connected because I don't really follow Apex at all, like
Right.
or Titanfall for that. But like I haven't even played Titanfall, so like
Wait, Apex and Titanfall are in?
They're the same universe. Yep.
same universe apparently.
Mhm.
I don't like
So
when
you were today years
when
old too.
video games have universes. No, absolutely not.
Yeah,
I can't.
The people in Apex Legends are the people.
Because
that
if
made
that's the case, Fortnite's messing everything up.
it.
We are all
I mean,
in their
Fortnite
universe.
says
We're all
Fortnite has
scattered.
effectively like just took the piss out of every universe possible.
Yeah, they're all ours now. Suck it.
But yeah, I don't know there's much more to say about that right now. It's just EA's doing things, and we're not really sure what they are. Although they apparently Dead Space is doing great, so that's
Dead Space had a huge start, yeah.
apparently the director that did the game director for Dead Space remake was like, yeah, they should just do Dead Space 4 now. Like, let's just keep the series going. It's doing well.
That is a good segue. Anyway,
Yes, it is a great segue because yeah, we also wanted to kind of branch off from that into a larger discussion about the nature of video games these days. Dana, you had a great sort of set of questions here. Are video games still moving forward, or are we going back in time? The
This is
Sims,
how I feel.
for instance,
Mm.
still
Yeah.
so hearing that it's been 2014 when they came out with The
Yeah.
Sims 4. I was
Yeah,
thinking
that's
Sims 1 was
4.
like 2000, so they went through all the expansions for 1, 2, all of the expansions for 2, 3, all the expansions, and then 4 again. Technically, we should be getting a 5. Like, I had a weird time trip when he said that.
Back to the first.
Sims
Yeah.
remake, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because
People would probably
okay,
like
so
that,
what's
actually.
the original Sims then?
2000,
The
early
Sims.
2000s.
2000, like I think
Jordan.
2000. I seem to remember playing it around then, if not 2001.
Yeah, February 4th, 2000.
Yeah.
Damn.
So that was I graduated grade 6 in 2000. So I was my niece's age. Aw. It's
Inception.
adorable. She's in grade 6 right now. Cute. Anyway, I had feelings.
Goddamn.
I'll choke them back down. So like that game has been out for 23 years. Is that the math?
Yeah, it's been a while.
23 years. Okay, cool. Now, The Sims 4 I think is doing it a little differently. Like it's constantly building upon the same
Yeah.
game. They're not like remaking and remaking and remaking and remaking. Whereas what we were just talking about with Dead Space is it's it's being remastered, remade, whatever. That's a problem that I have in gaming because I didn't like those games the first time, and they're not remaking any of the games I did like. But maybe that's a personal problem. I'm not sure.
I think what's
Yeah, I'd
happening
say,
now-
well, you're wrong.
Oh, okay.
I think what's happening now is we're at a point in the industry where a lot of the new risks companies have taken have not gone as well as they would have liked.
Aw.
And they're now looking to say, well, this is a sure thing. Let's do this.
I hate that so much.
Like,
Yeah.
I love when companies do something new. Like they push the boundaries on what we expect from gaming in one way or the other. But like I think the case of Forspoken is a good example where that's a new concept, a new IP.
And we were all horrible people. And by we, I mean like the gaming
Yeah.
world, not us.
And that game
individually.
is not setting the world on fire. It's doing fine.
Chris
think-
enjoyed it.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot of hate towards it for one way reason or another. And I don't know if that's making Square Enix think, you know something, we'll put a pause on these new IPs and we're gonna let's see what other like
Mhm.
Final Fantasy VIII remake, what can we do here? Let's figure it out. That's not a thing they've announced. I am just
Making
spitballing
shit
here.
up.
Yeah.
But I think the safe bets are what companies want to bet on right now because they don't want to make those multi-million
Money's
risks.
cool. I
Yeah.
think that's kind of just that.
And especially
Well-
when you look at like how well Dead Space remake is doing, or how well The Last of Us Part One did, or how well an iterative game like Call of Duty does for Activision Blizzard. Those are safe bets. They know their audience is going to buy into them, and as long as they don't mess it up too bad, they'll keep buying it. And I don't know how much of a risk companies are willing to take when it's something that might utterly fail. And Ubisoft's the same way. Look at Skull and
Dude,
Bones.
stop hitting the table.
Sorry.
Oh, that's it. Everything's shaking.
Look at Skull and Bones, where that game, the reports from like testers trying it out and saying, "Yeah, I don't want to play this game. It's not very good."
And then you
I
have
think
like, never mind. Go ahead.
like
You're good.
well, I was gonna say because like Brendan's definitely right. The industry has on almost every occasion proven to like take the safe bets, but it's
I mean,
also
that's
like
what a corporation does.
Mhm.
and that's what I was
Keep the
gonna say. Like
shareholders happy, yeah.
it's like we've gone through like so many generations now of like these perceived safe bets where like all the at the end of the day all they end up being are trend chasing. Like we had the big the
Yeah.
big FPS boom in like the mid 2020 or the mid 2000s, and then there was like the
yeah.
online the MMO boom that everyone wanted to get a part like a a slice of World of Warcraft's pie. Like so everyone is like chasing these trends, and then you have like every company wants to have the new Call of Duty or the new World of Warcraft or the new Fortnite or whatever, and
Mhm.
when those games end up failing, it's like they have to like look go
People
back
like
the
EA
well and
shut
be
them
like,
all down.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
look,
well, yeah,
look
you
at,
shut.
look at it this way. We were talking about Overwatch earlier. Remember Lawbreakers from Cliffy B?
No.
Yeah, and Lawbreakers was really cool.
That existed for like 6 weeks, and then they're like,
There
"Give
was
us something."
Lawbreakers. Like the what was that one that they also tried to have? No, oh, what that stupid. Oh my god, I'm forgetting the name of it now because again,
Yeah,
it
I
was
have
so
no
goddamn forgettable. There was like there was the one that the guys from the Forest I think tried to make that was garbage. Like,
Oh, yeah.
but like that was the thing. Everybody wanted to have a battle royale,
Yeah.
not too long ago. Like, and that's the problem is that when everyone's chasing the trend because they see where the money is, they all just want to have these like perpetual money making machines.
Mhm.
I mean, who doesn't?
There's only sure but like there's only so much money to go around to be made, and then when they stop making the money off this thing because what they thought was a sure bet was like,
Yeah.
well, nobody wanted it because we already have Fortnite. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, well, now what do we do? I guess let's let Prince of Persia was a great game everybody loved. Let's remake that and we'll make some money off that because everyone already loved it, so they'll love it again.
Now I will say, like, I haven't done my arguments for why it bites, but I will say that it does give like a new generation of people a chance to experience these games. Because right now, if you give me a game that we played when we were 12, I don't want to go play it. I want the new shiny game that's got the good graphics and all that. And
Right.
especially if you give a kid now the game from when we were kids, they're like, this is terrible. Why are we doing
Right.
that? Like, imagine them going back and watching movies. It's the same experience.
Yeah.
So if you give them a new shiny version of that game, that franchise, that whatever, then they can fall in love with it and possibly go back and experience all those other things. Jordan, you can make that face all you want. I can see it, but that is very much the case for a lot of
Yeah,
people.
I don't know
Especially
because
children, Mr. I have no kids.
I've been playing the original Mario with a 4-year-old who only speaks Portuguese, so in your face.
Fair.
But no,
that says.
but
No,
but
that he likes it.
that's what I mean. Like most experiences that I've had, like showing my younger family members, like
Mhm.
Mario, Ocarina of Time, like they've gotten
Those
into
aren't
it
the same
because
kind of games though. Like think about those are cartoony whatever. If you give me Zelda from way back when I'm going from Breath of the Wild, I'm like,
yes.
"Oh, this is different. Like this
Yeah,
isn't
but
the
a kid
same
who's
kind of
got no
thing."
frame of reference, like the
But
first game you're
chances
going
are
to
they
show them is
do.
Breath of the Wild.
But chances are they do. Like
But
they do have a reference.
regardless,
Yeah.
I think there's more of an argument to be made on like game
Well, why
preservation
would
than
you just made my point?
remakes.
Why is the first game you would show them Breath of the Wild?
It wouldn't be. I wouldn't give
That's what you just said.
I'm
If you're
saying you
introducing them to a
wouldn't.
Zelda franchise, you would give them Breath of the Wild to start.
No, I wouldn't. I would give them most likely
Okay, if
Link
you
to
were
the
introducing
Past.
them, if you were okay, that's fair. That's you though. If you're gonna give them Animal Crossing, which Animal Crossing are you gonna give them?
Mhm.
Um,
Don't even. You're just being spiteful. You know it would be New Horizons. Like, you
Debatably
know
New
that.
Horizon, but it's different because New Horizon is very like it's still similar like to the originals enough like that it's worth giving it to them.
Sure.
Like you know having to dig up a GameCube. But like if you're gonna introduce a kid to like something like Zelda, you're not gonna throw them throw a 7-year-old right into Breath of the Wild. Like you're gonna give them
I
something that's
did
a little more
with
tempered
several of them.
because when you
3 of them.
when you think about it, when you remember that those games were designed back then for the kids who were playing them, like there's no like age restriction on something like that, right? Breath of the Wild is a
Okay,
little bit
well,
more.
my children, my son was born in 2015. Breath of the Wild came out in 2017.
Well,
So
your child's a
started
goddamn
with
prodigy, Dana. I don't know
No,
what
no,
to
no,
tell
you
you.
sucked at it. Jordan, you have to understand, it's not that they're playing the game and succeeding in it. It's they're playing the game to enjoy it. Like Chris, I'm not sure where you started your kids. You've got one as young as mine. So I'm not
Mhm.
sure where you go.
Well,
My son's not great at video games in general. He can kick my ass in Fortnite. But yeah, no,
no,
he started with Breath of the Wild. They used to run around, get their butt kicked, and pick up apples. That was it.
Our kids are the
They
same
loved it.
age actually, and like the biggest thing like has been Kirby lately for
Mhm.
my eldest. Before that was a little bit of Pokemon, but as well as like other media connected to it, not so much the games. And yeah, they do suck at it.
Yep.
So my youngest is like obsessed with Mario right now. He doesn't want to watch like shows on Netflix or Disney. He wants to just watch YouTube videos of people playing the games. Bless you souls who put the commentary out there or put the videos out there without any commentary, because I don't want my kids listening to whatever you're saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the old stuff. So say he sees like compilation of Mario stuff, like all the evolution of this in Mario games. When it goes to the old stuff, he's not as interested. When it's the 2D stuff, and I'm like, this is the stuff I grew up on. This is amazing. Like I'll say to my older daughter, like, this is stuff I played when I was your age and or his age, and this is stuff I came up on. And they're like, oh, neat. And then they get more
My
distracted
kid can whoop
by
my
the
ass
more
in
3D
Fortnite,
stuff.
but if I give him like Super Mario,
Mhm.
no. The whole
Mhm.
like running and jumping at the same time, like no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
So for me, it's get them into this, and then we can go back. Like
Well,
even we
'cause
tried to get
Yeah.
them into Goldeneye. That's a perfect example. We're going back to that. It looks kind of rough, and they're
Well,
like, okay, but I can just go play Fortnite, you know?
Yeah.
that's the
It,
thing too. Like we started playing games when the D-pad was the thing. You didn't have any other options. You had a D-pad. Whereas their first like our kids' first experience now was like touchscreens and tablets and iPads.
Yeah.
They're a whiz on those things. Like even my 3-year-old can get around his tablet pretty quickly. But I if I handed him a controller, it would be a total
Yep.
loss. And meanwhile, like I was probably his age when I first played Mario, and
But I
that'd
mean,
be I don't know
Yeah,
how
that's
well
where
I
we
did with
started.
it, but it was that's where I picked up.
I want to point out the fact that we're all kind of looking through our own nostalgia goggles when we look at. Any of
I was
these
just about to
games.
say that.
Yeah, so I mean, we might think, yeah, Mario is the best thing ever, but
No, I don't know what Mario is. Thank you.
Mario.
Okay, but
But let me
that.
finish.
Oh, sorry, I was gonna
Audio.
ask you a question.
But like same as Link to the Past. That's a great game, but if you had kids and they don't only know 3D games, that would be much
Mhm.
harder to get your hands around or get your mind
No.
around than like a Fortnite or hell even a Breath of the Wild. Just be based on the point
Yeah.
of reference. If all
I
they
was
know
I
is
was
3D platformers, a 2D adventure game is going to be something very foreign to them and very like
Mhm.
hard to understand.
I was gonna say too that like to a certain point that like I agree with Dana and Chris because like the same night that that I was playing Mario with one of my girlfriend's nephews, I before we even started playing Mario, I was playing Splatoon on the TV, and he just came in and
Sure.
he wanted to play it. He just saw it and like thought it looked cool, so I just gave him the
Yeah.
controller, kind of gave him a basic understanding of how to do it. He didn't know what he was doing, like,
Mhm.
but he was having fun because like that kind of like teaching the concept of fun. Like as long as you just
Right.
like kind of take your hands off the wheel and let them like enjoy what they're playing with, it's like a toy is a toy, right? But like you could see he was. I tried to say to him like in what little Portuguese I know that the game was a little too advanced for him because when he as a just turned 5-year-old kid who doesn't really understand like the mechanics of the game, the fact that it's like online, that you're working with a team. Like he kind of was just like running around and randomly throwing paint here and there. And like
Yeah.
I was kind of like, and then every now and again someone would come up and just kill him, right? Because that's
To be
they
fair,
see
that's how I learn
a
every game. Run
You
around,
know what I
smash
mean?
buttons.
It's just-
Oh, that's what that does.
it's an easy kill. It doesn't understand
Yeah.
what's going on. But I'm saying, it's a competitive thing. I know, but like I'm like, but don't worry. Like just do whatever you want, have fun, right? So like
Mhm.
to that point, then yeah, like having something get remade for regardless, like if it's introducing a kid, even it's like if it seems like games back then were designed with different sensibilities because they were designed for a younger audience. Like you're right, like
I
they're
don't-
not going to want to
but
go
I
back
don't-
to old
I
school
wouldn't
stuff.
say a younger audience. I would just say a different audience.
Exactly.
That's what we had back then. Much like, in what, the friggin' 40s,
Yeah.
movies were black and white because that's what it was.
Yep,
And now,
I exactly
if you
agree.
give a kid a black and white movie, they're gonna be like, "What the frick is this?"
Where's the
Mhm.
rest of it? Yeah.
Yeah, this is broken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's exactly it. I think it's what we grew up on or what we know is what we have.
Mhm.
But that was my question for you then. If that's what you think, if it's what we know and how we're gonna start it. If you were gonna choose a franchise to introduce, it doesn't have to be a kid. Like
Okay.
introduce your grandmother. I don't care.
Mhm.
If you wanted to pick a franchise to introduce someone to in this point in time,
Mhm.
what franchise would it be, and where would you start them?
Mhm.
That's hard because I think it really does depend on that audience. I don't think I would say
Mhm.
Silent Hill would be one series that I think it still holds up, even though those games are looking kind of rough, like the first and second games.
Mhm.
They don't look amazing in today's standards.
No.
But
But
if
that
I was-
adds to it a little bit, I would say.
yeah, but if I was if but the storylines are still solid, the gameplay is still there.
Mhm.
So if I was saying, hey, like say someone that's never played a game before, but they like horror, I would definitely say Silent Hill.
Yeah,
And where would you
Silent Hill's a
start
good
them
place
then?
to start.
Silent Hill one,
Just
I'd
right
say
at the beginning.
one.
I'd say two. Two is the best,
Two's
definitively.
the deep. Two is the best, but it is also the again depends on the age group. Two is the most.
Yeah,
is the
you're
most
right.
suggestive. Like one's just about like one is a simple story.
I'm just
and-
thinking about like a
Mhm.
person you like and want to show. You're overthinking this.
Okay.
Depends
Well,
on their
okay,
age.
no,
It depends on if they
because-
like horror. It depends. Just something you want to share with the freaking world. Go.
I mean, like, I
There's
would've
too many
said
variables.
the original Dead Space. I loved that game when it first came out.
Yeah, no, that game still holds up.
I think that would if someone had said, "What games should they remake?" I would have said Dead Space. So they did the right thing there.
Hey, we did
See,
it.
They've tried remaking Silent Hill, and that didn't go great. So
Here's
the remake
so
of Silent
here's
Hill
kind
2,
of
I think that could be cool.
here's my thing to sort of like elaborate, I guess, a little bit on Dana's point. So like I brought up like Prince of Persia, right? Just sort of
Yep.
offhandedly. And like that's a great if you want to introduce someone to like a really like solid game, Prince of Persia is like the way to go.
My high school boyfriend plays that in my room all the time. I never.
Me and my friends crushed it out like in like a weekend. Like we started, we never
Right.
we just picked it up like randomly. I think we had like a ROM or like a hacked Xbox, and we just like, well, let's play Prince of Persia. Like I've heard about this. What is this? And yeah, like we could literally could not
Was that
stop.
at the time?
Yeah. And because I think at the
Okay,
time that was the only one that
wow.
was out. I think it was like a year or two later, Warrior Within came out.
Yeah.
I made a great joke. You
And,
guys are the
but
worst.
like, but if it was to be remade, and it was interesting
That is
because I
the
didn't even
discussion right now.
because I didn't even like totally consider it until after I watched one of Yahtzee's extra punctuations about how
Right.
good the love story between the two main characters is in that one. Like
Sure.
you look at a game like like Forspoken, right? Forspoken, for the most part, people are pretty like okay about it. Like it's gameplay wise, it's like you said, it's not setting the world on fire, but it works. But the thing everyone really zeroed in on is the super cringy dialogue because
I'm going to throw
I
it
guess-
up there. I feel that I want to interject here. There's been a lot of talk about that, and it's usually Xbox fanboys just saying, "How dare this game be so cringy?" Play most games. Most games dialogue real bad.
Yeah, but that's my point because like it's with modern sensibilities about like what's funny and cringe humor and memes and stuff like that. Like if Prince of Persia was to get remade, I have no doubt that they would like sacrifice a lot of the story to have Farah and the prince like throwing quips like they're in a
I'm
Marvel
gonna throw it out
movie, and
there. I bet that it's Ubisoft. They're gonna be cheap. They're just gonna remake the graphics and use the exact same dialogue.
yeah, you're right. You're 100%.
They're not redoing any
Yeah.
audio. If they are, they're just like, hey, this audio track doesn't sound good. Just record it again. It's fine.
And then people will say, "Oh, this game's so cringy," and then someone will say, "It's the exact same."
They just run it through like a filter, sharpen it. But no, but that's sort of that's where like that's kind of like where I'm coming from on why I would rather see more effort into like game preservation, and kind of like even like what Brendan was saying, like rather than like trying to like remake everything. If you like, you know, just keep things more or less the way they are. If you want to enhance the graphics like the way like Halo did with the Anniversary Collection, and even like include like a button that let you see side by side, like this is what it used to look like, you know, because it adds that idea of preservation, like rather than okay, we need to remake this, so we need to remake the game, the gameplay, we need to remake the graphics, we need to remake the story because it needs to fit modern sensibilities, because you know the way love stories were told.
I just replayed Age of Empires 2 because it's coming to console, or it is now out on console.
Hey, look, there's the review.
There you go.
Sorry, I was literally scrolling past it.
But the fact that the game, they might not have like kept the graphics exactly the same, but what they've done is the effort they put in to make the graphics look as you remember them. So you remember those graphics, like they look really good. Then you look at them like, oh no, the graphics did not look good. But what they've done in the definitive edition on console is it looks like you remember how those graphics were. They were small, but they had detail, blah, blah, because you're no longer viewing in a 640 by 480 monitor. You need to put effort into like making those graphics work on higher resolution screens. But the core of those experiences are still there. They've streamlined a few aspects of it, like the way that your workers can kind of automatically figure out what they have to do on your little like encampment. But the core of what made Age of Empires 2 great is still there. They haven't changed much. So someone that played Age of Empires back in the 90s and jumps into this game, they'll feel at home. But there's enough things in there that give a helping hand to people that might not know that genre, that it makes it so, oh, I don't know real-time strategy games, but I can jump into this and it's helping me figure it out. And you can slowly take off the training wheels as you need it. And I think that's how you remake a game. And I'm not giving praise because they did the Halo collection as well, Microsoft did. But it's keeping what the core of the game was and improving it in ways that you can, like adding graphics, fixing up the audio because it was really, mono audio back in the day or whatever it might be. But don't change the core loop that made the game so exciting when people first played it back whenever it was first released. And I think if they redid to Silent Hill 1, just call back my point, if they made all the dialogue different, they made the overall story different, I feel that might take away from what that game was.
Okay, but we've been focusing a lot on like remakes and things like that, but you can also go into sequels with this. I'm sitting here waiting like nobody's business for Fable, for Elder Scrolls, for I don't know, what'll they give me? Mass Effect, Dragon Age. Is that a bad thing?
No, I don't think so. I don't think that's a bad thing.
Not inherently, no.
I think it's good to have.
How many sequels have you guys been miserable with?
I mean,
let's talk Silent Hill. I've heard that conversation a couple times.
I mean, honestly, I like most sequels in Silent Hill. I don't think. I even like Downpour. I don't think it was great, but it was fine.
No,
your voice went all kinds of octaves for that.
But you know what? The Silent Hill sequels, I think, like again, like with the benefit of hindsight, the Silent Hill sequels could have been a lot better. But like things that were going on inside Konami, like them just sort of handing them out to whatever studio rather than sticking with the studio that like dealt with like the sort of like main first three Silent Hills. And like developing really good games, like even Silent Hill 4, or not 4 was amazing. 5, right? Like 5 was given to an. Yeah, that's the Room. That one's so good.
5 was Homecoming.
5 was Homecoming, and 5 I believe was given to an American studio, which is why it feels
Jordan
so
just, like woke the crap up, guys.
That was
no, you're good. You're pumped. I like it.
So that's what I mean. So
Right.
like it's like so it because of like the way it was handled, you had a lot
Yeah.
of games of very disparate quality.
I
Whereas
mean,
like
I 100% agree with that. Yeah.
you know what I mean? But like so like I think to a certain degree, like it's kind of I guess in the way that like with like even like with movies, like you have there's that sort of like natural sense you get where like we're just like where everything is a sequel now, that you're kind of like God, I wish that we get like more new stuff,
Mhm.
right? But there's nothing
I
necessarily bad with a sequel if it's doing it enough differently,
I'm
like a
gonna
good
throw it out
sequel
there.
should.
I think there's good things about sequels. It brings an audience that might not like if you made a new horror game called The Room rather than Silent Hill 4 The Room, it would have been a
Hmm.
very different audience jumping into that game than it
Sure.
was um, as a Silent Hill game. But I also think
Well,
there's a problem where if you're looking at like you're making a sequel and you're like we're going to go new direction, you have that
mhm,
audience that basically will just if it's not the thing they love, they view it as a failure. And I think that's a lot of modern sequels say, oh, they're using that as a base point, like that's world, but they're not going to have the character
yeah,
you love. And everyone's like, no, I'm not playing
it's
this game now.
too
It's basically
different.
ruined. Yeah. And
Well,
I
you
think,
know
Side
what?
note, when will they make Tommy Wiseau's The Room into a game?
I mean,
They did
I,
actually.
yes,
It's a
they did. There
Newgrounds
was
game. It's
yes,
Oh, okay, well,
amazing.
New ground.
No, it's amazing. No,
so
it's
all I know is that when Brendan said a game called The Room instead of Silent Hill The Room, I heard, "Are you tearing me apart?"
I saw you light up. I saw you light up.
Yeah.
But I think look at this.
well,
I want to back to your point, like you were saying, the Silent Hill game, like the Silent Hill Homecoming. If Homecoming was just called Homecoming horror experience, whatever, I
mhm,
think people would have been less harsh on that game than they were because it was like, oh, this is a Silent Hill game. Why did they not do all this other stuff Silent Hill did?
yeah,
It was fun. It wasn't a great game. Let's be clear. It was not
no,
great, but people hate that game because it's not the Silent Hill game they love, and they don't say, oh, it was kind of a neat little
yeah,
combat horror game. Cool. But there's tons of
yeah,
those games that exist, but because the expectations going into these games, any sequel, are so high, unless it's
yeah.
flawless, someone's gonna be upset. Someone's gonna think it's the worst thing on earth.
No, even if it is
Yeah,
flawless, they will. Like nobody's
Well, you know
happy.
what?
yeah.
I think there definitely are like some like examples of that. Like in the case of Silent Hill, it's like Homecoming again. Like yeah, like you're right. If it was called any other thing, it probably would have been fine. But I don't think necessarily it's just the name. I think it's part of the problem is that it's using like the not only just the brand but like a lot of the iconic stuff from namely Silent Hill 2 without really understanding why that
Oh,
stuff
I
belongs in that
agree.
game.
Like there's
Um,
so much imagery in those games that make literally no sense.
yeah,
But they
and
make no
and and,
sense
and even
because the team that built the new game, sorry, doesn't really understand yeah, that's the game, yeah. Doesn't
yep.
really understand why those images and those concepts were used in the game to start with. And that's not saying no one on the team knew that, but the
Mhm.
whole studio's like, hey, we want this sort of thing. And someone might say, we need this game character in there, we need this character in there, or it won't be a Silent Hill game. Like, I guess we're doing that now.
But
And it's really
Well,
hard.
I think I
Don't get
question
that
the
lost.
idea of like the like if a sequel is like too different, that like people hate it, because I feel like a lot of people have more or less like more and more gamers have kind of come around to the idea, because I know like personally
Mhm.
like for myself like I was pissed off at Metal Gear 2 because you didn't start the game as Snake, and like that
I
is
liked to. I'm gonna look.
it's
I'm not gonna lie.
really
I really
good, like
liked to. Yeah.
it's a really good game. But I myself, and I know a lot of people too, who were like, this game is stupid because I want to be Snake. Like Devil May Cry 4, amazing game, but I was guilty of it too,
I
being like, this
mean,
is dumb,
I
I want to be Dante.
I didn't love Devil May Cry 4. I played that game
It's
fully through.
fine.
It was fine.
It's a
I
Devil May Cry
often
game.
don't like sequels when you start off and you're a different you're a whole different character. I'm genuinely like,
But
but it usually
but
wins me
you
over in
know
the end.
we turn our attention to something like The Wind Waker, which a lot of people were very mad about. It was a sequel to Zelda that didn't look like anything other that came before it, and even the tech demo that Nintendo showed off that
Yep.
people thought was a game, it ends up, people look back on it, it's one of the best Zeldas ever made. And then, like, I think most famously now we've got Resident Evil 7. Resident Evil 7 was
Yeah.
such a departure from what Resident Evil is, and it's like one of the best Resident Evils that they've made. And
But
even eight is pretty different from 7 too, and it's still like it's really good.
Well, like here's the thing though, like remake or sequel, no matter how faithful it's going to be,
Mhm.
it's never going to please everybody. It's just impossible.
100%.
I don't think
Sure.
it's ever possible because there's expectations from people who were excited beforehand. There's people who
Mhm.
find the series after a couple games and they think it's this thing, but it's already been 5 other things.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
And
that's a very
the
good
very
point.
nature of game development too. Sorry to cut you off there.
No,
It's just different because, like, 30 years ago, NES games were made by like 12 people. Now it's 100 easily, and it takes
Mhm.
a long time. Like I'll go back to like Final Fantasy. So the original one was made in 87 within like 8 months by like 10 people. They cranked out a sequel, had it out 364 days later, and it was a substantially different game. And they did it again. They put the first 6 games out in 8 years, and
Mhm.
then started incrementally getting bigger and bigger times. And like you can see the hardware jumps, like it becomes incrementally harder to make new games, especially at that like blockbuster expectation. So
Mhm.
yeah, just the every nature of the beast changes from like expectations and
Yeah.
reactions from audience members to the very process of making it. So like I
But you
feel like
also
there's
have the fact that an audience, like let's say a niche series, when there's like a small but really passionate fan base for a game, and the studio might say, "Hey, we love what we're doing, but we want to appeal to a larger audience." You're going to lose the small fan base to get the larger one, because often what will happen is they'll say, "Okay, we need to change these things to make it so it's more appealing," and the people that love the game for what it was
Mhm.
hate the fact they made it more appealing.
You guys are really stuck on this like remake sequel thing right now. Like this was not the topic, and
Well,
you're just like really
Okay.
stuck on that one fact. The whole
then
point
To
of
again
this
though,
that point,
podcast is this moving things forward. So, do you think that watching a game that started like any version of Mario, so a game that started when we were 4,
Mhm.
is now still coming out in all sorts of different ways in 2023, are we pushing
yes.
things forward by making a new kind of same game?
No.
See, I got a no and a yes.
I
see,
think
I
so.
think
I
No.
think Mario's very different. We went from side scrolling to like Mario 64. I was like, nope,
Yeah.
nope.
And you look even just like at Odyssey specifically, like Odyssey
Mhm.
really changed like the core concepts of Mario.
Mhm.
Now it's not just you're running and jumping, you're like literally using the things you used to jump on or jump over, like you're using the obstacles to like to navigate and explore these worlds.
And then
So
we're
it's like
talking
there's
about.
just
Sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say the core game mechanic of Mario was changed so drastically
Mhm.
in such a unique and fun way that it like
Mhm.
definitely I mean as the series, maybe not the whole medium, but like as
Mhm.
a series like Mario, it
Yeah.
definitely moved forward.
See, and that was going to be my question. What out there is moving the medium forward? Because yes, every for the
Elden
most
Ring.
part, anybody, yeah, any sequels are going to move the franchise forward, whether it's moving it into another style of game, moving it into a different kind of story, a different kind of graphics, or whatever, a
Mhm.
different engine,
Mhm.
all that jazz. But what are we doing to move the medium itself
I
forward?
think there's a few games that really push things forward in different ways. Like Fortnite, even though I think that started as a completely different game and kind of aped what PlayerUnknown's was doing, it pushed things forward in a profoundly different way and changed how gaming is
Mhm.
done. But I think there's kind of like a lot of holding like steady for a while, and then there's a jump, and there's a game that will push
Yeah.
things forward in a major way, and everyone says, "Okay, we can do new things." But until that happens, studios will often be, or studios and publishers will often be like, "Okay, let's not be too crazy here.
Yeah.
Let's just make things that people want, and you're going to have those large stops, basically a leap forward, and then no one wants to take a risk for like 3 years. Then
Well,
there's going to be another leap forward.
Well, and something that I
I
would
don't
say
know.
that Hmm? Go ahead.
I was gonna say
I wasn't going to argue, so you argue.
Oh, no, I was gonna say I don't know if it's so much that people don't want to take risks or make changes. I think that it's more like to I think to elaborate on your point, that it's like there's change on the micro level and the macro level. So like yeah,
Okay.
like Fortnite came around and changed things on a macro level.
Yeah.
Like it really redefined how like games can be played, how games can be
Yep.
monetized, like what like how much property can be in a game. But then
Yep.
you can see games on like indie games or even just like smaller scale games that have that have like unique movement mechanics or like fighting
Yeah.
mechanics or just like different things that actually like okay, like this is actually like a very new thing that if it's like implemented in a bigger game it could be really interesting.
I think that
It's,
makes that's a
yeah,
good point.
it's. I feel like we're trying to make things change, but there's always like a big pushback, and that really affects how it happens. Like for Spoken, for instance, one of the things I appreciate about that game, I haven't had that much fun exploring an open world since Breath of the
Mhm.
Wild.
Right.
Yeah.
Discounting Spider-Man because that was already something that had been
Yeah.
done before pretty
Right.
well, just advanced. Like I was just having fun running around that world. The scale of it is impressive. I think I moved open world games forward incrementally.
I do want to say one
Um,
thing about Forspoken, that I don't know why more people aren't touching on, and it's just how that game's marketed and what they're choosing to show off the game. Because every time I've seen that game in person, it looks stunning. It is a very pretty
Mhm.
game that shows off what the PS5 can do. But every time I've seen a screenshot of the game, it's kind of blurry, it's kind of muddy looking, and I'm going, why is this the promotional shot they're showing
Why
for
do
this
you want
game?
this to fail?
welcome to my struggle trying to get screen caps for my review. There were so
Yeah.
many times where I was like, I'm stepping pictures off in gameplay as I'm doing these crazy
Mhm.
spells and stuff. Like that's gonna be great, and then I go back to the menu and it's garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's but everyone know. Yeah, to come back to the marketing, like it's doing all these things to move like to reinvent the formula that was growing stale. But people just pick one thing to latch onto and say, "No, this sucks." Like, play the thing. And again,
Mhm.
the marketing didn't help because the demo that they released, I didn't try the demo because I heard from people who had played another build of it
Mhm.
elsewhere that the demo was misrepresentative of like the final thing and just had no context. So
Yeah,
Right.
most
I
of the
skipped the
people
demo.
that I heard that played the demo were like, the game is way better than what they let us
Yeah.
play.
Yeah.
They probably shouldn't have done that.
They drop you
Well,
in
even
after
like
like a pretty major point, and they don't really explain the systems. That you don't know the connection
Mhm.
between the character and the bracelet, and you're just kind of left to your own devices. Where like
Right.
the whole game does a really good job of building up the skills and
Mhm.
like
Yeah, I've heard that it scaffolds things pretty well.
scaffolding was one of the big terms I
Yeah.
use. It takes some patience because it is slow paced, but
Mhm.
it pays
Well,
off
I
big
think
time. I think.
even like initial marketing from what I remember seeing of it made the game seem like it was going to be this totally different thing, like something almost on par with like Elden Ring, where you're sort of put into this like really dark fantasy world, and it's kind of like it's a little bit like Monster Hunter, where the big things just show up and you have to use like crazy magic to take them out. But there's also like this kind of like unique movement mechanic, but they really didn't like lay in too much of what the story was going to be like, which is so intrinsic to the whole game experience.
Yeah, like the story paid off better than I thought it would.
Mhm.
Because like even when I was doing the review, someone else I know that had like an early access to it said, I finished it and gave me like a brief cliff notes of the ending, and I was like, okay, that's not maybe what I
Yeah.
expected or whatever. But then when I actually played through myself, I was a lot more impressed with it. It's yeah, it's just it's a shame because I think it's a lot better than the reviews are giving it credit for,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
maybe not the reviews, but like the overall consensus. And there's a lot of stuff that could be learned from open world games, and I think it's going to go out like ignored because of little cringe dialogue, right? Like,
Now, just a question:
Yeah.
do you think this is going to be one of those games that in like a year people are going to be like, "Oh, that was a masterpiece. I really wish I played that when it first came out."
this is the thing with a lot of games these days is that this happens all the time because of this feedback loop, right? Like,
Mhm.
oh,
Mhm.
the trailer comes out, for there's a few things that I think are influencing the reception for the game.
Right.
Certain aspects about the playable character, for instance, like there's no denying that there are a group of people out there that are just mad that there's a POC woman, like in the
How
protagonist
dare
role.
they?
Like, right, like
Naturally.
how dare they, and how dare she speak? Like, so that's an aspect of it. There's feedback from, like, MCU type dialogue. People are getting kind of tired of that, and this kind
I
of
mean, to be
smacks of
fair,
that.
I don't love that
Yeah.
dialogue either, but if
Yeah,
Well,
it
no, and
it
that's
doesn't throw me off an experience. I would like more
yeah.
naturalistic dialogue, but that's just me.
it's like they gave you the option to turn it down too. Like you can cut down the banter a little bit in the options
It'd
menu.
be fine.
And I didn't even find that really a problem until, like, when you have a story goal in mind, or like when you're like on going to like a major mission or something, the chatter changes and it's not as constant. Now I'm in the end game stuff doing like extra stuff, and like, okay, now I'm like, even this is getting repetitive for me, and I didn't mind it beforehand. But anyways, you have that feedback loop up front from impressions and things like that,
Mhm.
and it just builds this self-fulfilling prophecy. They're like, oh, this game failed, lol. Like, oh, look at the review scores, oh, the review bombing it, blah blah. And then people actually give it the time of day. I've even talked to people that were like on the fence about the game, or just kind of waiting to play it for themselves, and now they're like, yeah, this is really great, actually. So yeah, I totally think this is gonna be one of those games that grows on people, because they'll actually give it a chance in a couple of years. It was the same thing it was the same thing for me with Mass Effect Andromeda. Like, I came to that 2 years ago, well after it came out, and I've had a much different experience with it than most people at the time did, because I didn't have that baggage from the pre-release, right? Like, but
Yeah, well, but in fairness, I would say that might be a bit different because you played it after it was heavily fixed.
well, yeah,
whereas like
that's
you know what I mean.
happens with games these days too.
I don't
The
think
problem,
people hated.
or
I was
at
gonna
least
say
the
that-
difference. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Brendan.
I was just going to say, I don't think people hated Mass Effect Andromeda for the fact it's Andromeda. I think they hated it because the game was a
It was
giant
broken.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the difference, right? With something like Forspoken, people like are definitely cutting it out of context and sort of missing a lot of the point. Like I'll admit, like, I was seeing a lot of it on TikTok too, and just like maybe I'm a little bit different. I feel like that dialogue might have turned me off a little bit. Like, it just would have made me like hesitant to keep playing. But then, like, when I actually like wanted to do a little bit more due diligence, and like I was like, I'm not going to take everyone's word on TikTok about what it is, like, to see what people like actual critics were saying about it too. Like, it's like, no, everyone's pretty much on the consensus that it's a pretty solid game, minus, yeah, okay, the dialogue is a little bit cringe, but get over it. Like,
yeah, there was a lot of spin going around that weekend before release date, like saying like, oh, don't buy it because they didn't give enough reviewers the code or enough time, or
there was that,
Yeah.
and there was those people that like, don't buy this game because it was only, it drops between this many frames a second, and it's not actually 1080p. Or I'm like,
or like,
why are you so
there's strict restrictions on reviews. Well, first of all, every review has restrictions, and usually boil down to don't spoil the story.
Yeah.
There was nothing there that I haven't seen before. Like, it's just it's just the nature of the beast. They don't want you giving the game away. Shocker.
I mean, let's be clear, there are some embargoes and NDAs related to reviews that are overly restrictive. That you can't mention half the game, and if the bugs are in half of the game, that's a problem.
Now, I've not had any that were that restrictive. In your experience, when you have had those things, were they like a red flag? Genuinely, or is it like people just totally misconstruing the whole concept?
I have had some where it has been just like you get the game, you're like, okay, I can't talk about any of these things. And you're like, oh, but these things are really broken. But it also sometimes it is story-based games often have heavy embargoes. Nintendo games are that way. Some Sony games are that way because if they're a single player experience, you want to make sure you don't spoil that story that people kind of want to have that group experience of kind of seeing. And those embargoes I totally understand. And I think that's what this one was. There are some that like you can't talk about how the game plays. You can't mention these bugs if you agree to this review. That sort of thing makes me hesitant because you're trying to review a game and you can't talk about major bugs because that might be coming in the day one patch. You're taking a company's word as what will be fixed and what won't be fixed. And me as a reviewer, I find that a hard kind of thing to take on because
Well,
I'd rather wait to get the review out after launch and make sure the thing is fixed than say, oh yeah, I can't. If I review it, I have to review it as if those bugs don't exist. That to me can be disingenuous.
Well, yeah, it's unfair, right? Because it's naturally it's
Yeah.
going to like if those bugs happen and it's like they're going to they're going to affect your experience, right? So it's
Yeah.
like if it makes
Mhm.
your experience worse, but it's like, oh, I can't talk about this because they know the bug is there, so like they said
Yeah.
they're going to fix it,
I
but
mean,
it's like,
that
but
being
that stopped me from liking it.
that being said, I'm also as a critic, I know bugs might exist in a pre-release build, but when the
Sure.
company says don't talk about these 10 things, I then say that's a red flag. If the company says there will be bugs, act accordingly
Hmm.
and review accordingly, I'll be like, okay, I can accept a game might not be perfect before launch. That happens as long as I know I'm getting it early. I'm getting it a few weeks early before it's out. So I kind of take that into consideration. But when a company puts that as a, hey, if you accept this review, you can't talk about any of this stuff. That to me is a red flag, and that is not what I'm seeing with Forspoken from what you're telling me.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no, like there was nothing. Like I said, there's nothing in the embargoes that was anything near like that.
Yeah.
It's all standard stuff, really, and it boils down to, hey, please don't spoil our surprises. We want people to experience these things,
Don't
and
ruin the game, please.
please don't spoil everything. But yeah, to kind of bring it back in, like people are trying. I just don't think they always get a fair shot at it.
Mm.
There's so many factors going against it. To tie it all back in, like development is hard these days. There's a lot of factors. They
Mhm.
want to. There's
Lots of
these
money.
execs trying to cram live service stuff into games that doesn't need to be there.
Mm.
But yeah, like I see progress in certain areas if we just let
Yeah.
it happen.
I think to sort of like to tie up the point that you were like
Mhm.
that you were making there too is like it's like there's you're never going to please anybody, and
Mhm.
especially the gamers
Please
TM,
everybody or
because
please
like
everyone.
well everybody or
Sometimes
anybody
no
really.
one. Yeah.
Sometimes it's anybody because you know what, because like again to Dana's point, right, like you if you have like sequel like look at Call of Duty for example, it's like sequel after sequel after sequel and like nothing's really changing, or like sports games where it's like every year it's another sequel and there's nothing, just a roster update, right, and like or it's like things are more broken
That
than
can
they
be an
are
update.
fixed, right,
Yeah.
like then it's just like you get into this point where it's like all you're doing is just trying to pump out a sequel every year.
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed is another example. Like, and you're not doing it enough differently, and half the time because you're rushing to have a sequel, you're barely coding the game functionally, right? So like rather
Mm.
than focus, like the sequels aren't inherently bad, but if your only focus is just to make sure you're constantly having new sequels all the time and
Right.
you're not trying to innovate, then there's no point. That you might as well just like why make something the same that's worse than when you could try something new that's better, right? And
Yeah.
I think you're definitely I've at least I've been seeing, because I've been kind of like dipping my toe a little bit more into the water, like especially in the indie scene.
Mhm.
A lot of indie devs aren't necessarily trying to cater to what they think people are going to like, trying to meet those demographics. They want to
Okay.
make the game that they want to make, and it's like, and if they make it good enough, people will like it, and usually that works.
Do you think that the industry is moving forward, just not necessarily in the AAA space?
Not totally in the AAA space, because like I said, then I mean, like we've all said, we have seen some like
Yeah.
pushes forward, like they like some like the big name like the AAA like some AAA publishers definitely have been showing some signs of progress and trying in
Mhm.
some avenues, right? But it's just, I
Right.
think, because the nature of the AAA space really is, because you have these big name publishers who have shareholders who have to like meet certain projections every year, they're not trying as hard as the indie spaces to like move
Okay.
things forward.
I can see that.
Yeah, to quote one of the comments on my Forspoken review, actually, cutscene after cutscene after cutscene, control is wrested away from you as soon as anything interesting happens, leaving you to simply run around between moribund, single button mashing fights, and that's AAA gaming in 2023.
To be
Like,
fair, that's
it's
how
a
I
bit
felt about
Not
Guardians.
wrong.
it's a bit
That's
reductive,
not
but
wrong.
it's not. It doesn't really apply to Forspoken if you read the review at all. But yeah,
And
I mean,
To
That's
sort
why
of
I
like
went
to
to
sort of like
Guardians. That's was my big complaint. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I feel like I'm just watching a movie, and I wanna
It's
a
a movie
preview or
you
something.
enjoyed, but it wasn't like a
Yeah, it
game.
wasn't
and,
one that I
and
want to occasionally have to interact with.
Yeah.
and maybe it's not totally the same, but I think like again like the actual like perfect mirror in my opinion to that is like I look at a game I don't know if you guys saw it called Pizza Tower that just released onto Steam recently.
I did not know that
Basically
one.
these guys, I've been following it for a while because these guys straight up just said they made this game because Nintendo hasn't made a good Wario Land in forever, and they just wanted they love Wario Land and they wanted to make a game like it, so they just made this game
Wario
called
Land or
Pizza
Wario
Tower, and it
Ware?
Wario Land, like Wario Land
Okay.
3 on the Game Boy Advance, those really good ones. They're just
Yep.
like, we wanted a game like this, so we just made it. And like, it's like they just did what they want, and the game looks great. It's gotten bomb reviews, like, you know what I mean? So it's like just make the thing you want to make. People will find it, and people will like it if you put your heart into it.
Yeah, and I
And
mean
that's progress.
sometimes we go forward by going back too, right? Like one of the big
Mhm.
sleeper hits of the year last year was Tunic. And
Mhm.
like the big
It's
praise
Zelda.
that I heard from it was like, it really brings back the feeling of those old games, but it's doing it
Yeah.
with modern hardware. And what can we learn from that? Like, what can we take away from that besides do this because it will print money?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
There's a lot of that though.
like even like Destiny's one of my favorite games in the last like decade or so,
Mhm.
and it's bleeding into a lot of other games that don't need it. Like earlier today I saw the Wizard game compared to like a crappy Wizard based Destiny. Like
Mhm.
Okay.
I don't need that IP to have that engine. Same thing. Same reason I didn't need that from Avengers. Like
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, let's just stop shoving everything that works into anything else.
We went on a diatribe there.
We did.
We did.
Yep.
Dana invited chaos by starting this topic.
Dana, do you want to close us out? Do you think gaming has moved forward?
You guys didn't even discuss it the way that I thought you would, so I'm gonna stay out of this one. I'm gonna stay out of that one.
We'll try again next time.
Yeah,
Probably
next
not.
week, part 2.
Probably not. But
Tune in for the
Yeah.
4-hour cut.
mhm.
Yeah, right. But don't tempt us. But that's gonna do it for us this week. If you'd like to read more on these topics and more, you can find full coverage at cgmagonline.com. Be sure to follow CG Magazine on all the socials. Just search CG Mag, you'll find us. And if you have any questions or comments, you can send them to podcast@cgmagonline.com. Jordan, where can people find you?
You can find me sometimes on Instagram, sometimes not so much on TikTok anymore, but kind of at Ninja X Jordan, and you can find me on YouTube at Ninja Jordan Reviews.
You can find me at the Dana Eileen on some places, I think. TikTok. No, don't go to my TikTok. Twitter, I guess, and Instagram. Yeah.
And you can find me at bfry26 on Twitter and I guess Instagram. I don't know. I'm also probably that's two of those.
One day we'll do this without being incredibly awkward human
Nope,
beings.
we won't. That's
No.
How about you, Chris?
That's off.
What are you up to?
You can
Where
find
you
me on
at?
all the socials at Hoogathy, HOOGATHY. All right, and yeah, on behalf of everyone that's here at CGM, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week.
We will. If Brendan was ready to click the Ed Stream button.
This is